Viewers around the world, it's a beautiful thing to have us here again. Today is the day number 4 of this conference going on so far on sustainable development. And once again, I would like to still introduce myself as the host or your host for today's topic. My humble self, I still remain and I haven't changed. My name is Oji Sunday Michael. For Wapno Talks, I am the International Relation Officer. At this junction, I want to welcome us, the viewers out there, and my two honorable guest speakers for today. I want to welcome us to this conference, which says, Plant Your Future campaign, an initiative of POUP 1.0. Right, it is a comprehensive conference on several essential issues of climate change with educatory guidance from UNICEF, a resemblance of the Sustainable Development Program. Today is day 4, like I said earlier, and the topic for today, which we shall be hearing from both horses' mouths, is climate change causes wildfires, which leads to loss of life and long-term respiratory problem. And lastly, before we have the first guest speaker to share his view on today's topic, I would like to appreciate this set of companies for making it possible for this conference to be happening as we have been taking it, which has led us to today being the 4th day of the program. I would like to appreciate our media partner in person of or in group of or in company of Mute Break. I also want to partner Lumber Updates. And blogging partner, we still want to appreciate them too, which are called Teen Holds. And then I also want to appreciate the organizing partner. Of course, they still remain LWT, our special partner, Startup Times. We also appreciate you. And of course, I cannot start to hear from any of the speakers without also appreciating Wapno Talks, which happen to be the host of this very event and conference that is going on sustainable development. Right. First speaker for today, very briefly, viewers watching right now, I would like to quickly introduce formally to us our second speaker on today's topic, Dr. RAJARSHI. Pardon me, Mitra, for not pronouncing your name well, sir. I'm sorry, I apologize for that. He's a MSc and PhD, and also he is an assistant professor and head of department HOD of Environmental Science, Vekananan College. Wow, this will be very interesting to hear from him on this topic. Definitely, he's going to give us good in-depth on proper information. Now, that leads us to his achievement. For you to understand what I am talking about, why I said he's going to give us an in-depth information or a deeper information. Now, in his achievement, he's involved in environmental science teaching, research and development for the last 20 years. Wow. 20 years is not 20 hours. It is not 20 minutes. It is not 20 seconds. It is not 20 days, but this is 20 years. You can imagine what we're going to get from him today. And more than 20 papers in different journals. He has edited books and proceedings volumes. And finally, here once more, in one of his achievements so far, he has authored one book on environmental studies, and that is to say, in a jiffy or in a brief, he has published a book on environmental studies. So over to you, Doctor. We would like to hear your own view or your own opinion or point of view on today's topic. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Actually, today's topic is, to some extent, it is confusing because I can say it's a little paradoxical. Actually, the quest is whether climate change is a driver of a forest fire or nowadays the frequent forest fire is going to drive the climate change. Whether we are getting much more climate change and some impact which are going to destroy much more the nature more intensely because of this forest fire. So, as the topic says, climate change as a driver of forest fire, I would like to show you some figures, and perhaps on the basis of that, we can have an idea whether really climate change is driving forest fire, and then we will just touch the topic whether how the climate change is leading to further degradation of nature or further degradation of forest fire. So, let me present it now. The topic, as it says, the climate change drives forest fire. So you can see, we know the global warming is there and IPCC is there, and they are publishing different assessment reports. The latest assessment report we are now having is from 2014, and the new one is going to be published right now. But here we can see the observed changes of climate throughout the globe. So we can see the changes is happening, and there is a very sharp increase in temperature. Now, if we say that as per the assessment report that it is expected by 2100, there will be a change of 8.5 degrees centigrade, and nowadays we can say there is a change of more than more than 1.5 degrees centigrade, and it will enhance. At least it will be 2.6, or at most it will be 8.5 as by 2100. So these are the projected changes. You can see it is the lowest increase. If the increase is restricted, if we can behave in such a way, if we can carry on our civilization in a way that will reduce the greenhouse gas concentration, that can reduce the climate change as well as global warming, then we are going to get a globe like this. Whereas if we are in between 2081 and 2100, and the same in the same period, if the business go as it is going, maybe this will also exceed. But the maximum estimation of the global warming is like this. So you can see how warm the globe is going to be within 80 years from now. So if that type of warming happens, the whole process of climate, the whole process of deep sea waves, the process of airflow throughout the globe, everything will be changed, because the whole globe is actually bound by this particular circulation, what is known as global conveyor belt. And if there is change in sea surface temperature of the sea, that is SST, sea surface temperature, and if there is a change in differential warming up, if some area is warming up first and some area is not, then that will ultimately disturb this particular the balance of this particular flow, and it will lead to huge consequences, what we know from several studies. And even this year, the Antarctica has also seen the maximum temperature. It was as 18 degrees centigrade. So we can understand how we are heading towards a very, very warm climate and warm globe. In fact, since 2015, we have got the three most warm year in the history. So if we come back to our topic, then it has also been observed that wildfire is increasing. And from different studies, we can see the wildfire without climate change is increasing like this, and with climate change is increasing like this. So first question arises, why wildfires are increasing? And then question comes whether the climate change is the driver of wildfire or not. So if we base on this particular study, then the question, the main question would be why it is increasing like that, where in 1985 it was like this, now it is increasing day by day. So why millions of years are being burned and why we don't have any control over that? And we have seen the occasion of climate change, the occasion of wildfire are increasing every year. So here is a study from USA, and particularly if you see look at this particular map, you can see the abnormally dry areas, moderate drought areas. All this part of the USA is showing dry areas. So it is a study from 2015. So we can see how the dry areas is increasing, and these areas are suffering exceptional drought. Now, if I would like to correlate the climate, because drought is something which which is directly related, or which is a direct consequence of climate change. So if I look at this particular map, we can see the concentration where the droughts are concentrated. And if I look at this particular map, this is the part. And if I look into it, we can see the wildfire is happening in these areas where those areas which are drought prone. So drought prone areas are suffering much more wildfire events than those areas which are not that much drought prone. It directly indicates towards the fact that climate change is having something to do with the drought. But along with that, if I look into this particular chart without looking into the earlier one, then we can see the wild land urban interface, that is WUI. So where the WUI is there, more wildfires are there. The red parts are wildfire inside that 2021 WUI, and this one is wildfire outside the 2021. So in one side drought is there, and in other side the civilization is there, the urbanization is there. So somehow it is not only climate change that is driving the forest fire, rather the civilization, the urbanization, the raising of lands. Maybe the grazing land is being raised for urban area, the forest land is being raised for grazing land or agricultural land, or some types of transitional zone in between a forest and an urban area, or directly the urban areas or human inhabitation is encroaching the forested areas. So these type of activities, this type of interface between the human civilization and the nature is leading to much more forest fire. And therefore, although it seems that climate change is directly related or correlated to the forest fire, but along with the climate change, our habitation, our spread of the habitation, urbanization, industrialization, these are also having some role to play, and maybe that is aggravating the situation. So from the US study, if we look into the span since 1970s, we can easily say the hotter years are having more forest fires. So it is very obvious that if the temperature is high, if there are much more drought, then it is very obvious that we are going to have more forest fire events. Because if the plants are getting dried up, the soil are getting dried up, then ultimately the moisture content of soil as well as the moisture content of the local climate will reduce. And whenever there will be a flash, that will lead to flare, and ultimately we will get wildfire. In fact, once the wildfire happens, the particular patch of land, the particular forest loses its moisture, there becomes some sorts of disbalance in between the respiratory soil respiration. There will be disbalance between the concentration of organic matter, and ultimately that area is going to be infertile or may not be available for silviculture or the culture of forest. So this is how the dry years can trigger the forest fire, or dry years are correlated with the forest fire. But once it happens, as I told you earlier, that it is a paradoxical thing, whether forest fires are happening because of the global warming, or as the forest fire is happening, it is further aggravating the conditions and global warming is taking place. Actually, it has been estimated that soil respiration emissions tend to stabilize between 10 to 30 years. So once there is a forest fire, then the respiratory loss of the soil, or the capacity of the soil to absorb the carbon, to absorb the greenhouse gases within it through the soil respiration process, will be hindered, and it will be restored after 10 to 30 years. So by that time, if there is another forest fire occasion, then the capacity will be gone. So we cannot expect the soil of those forests will absorb, will sequester much more carbon. Because in most of the cases, the carbon which are being sequestered by the forest are not sequestered by the canopy only, but it is getting much more carbon is being sequestered at the soil through soil respiration. So this loss is a huge loss which will lead to loss of carbon sequestering areas. Similarly, increasing the soil decomposition may not compensate the loss of root respiration. Actually, it is debated that no, as the forest fire is there, so the plants are being burnt up, and as it happens in case of some agricultural land there where we burn the crop residue and then that act as nourishment to the soil. But in case of forest fire, the rate of decomposition, which is increasing because of the burning, cannot compensate the loss of root respiration. So that leads to a permanent loss of carbon sequestering area. And wildfire with a warmer climate might increase nitrous oxide emission. Because we know if there is nitrogen and oxygen, now if there is a heat, if there is some sort of electricity or heat or flame, when nitrogen and oxygen get warmed up, then they react to form nitrous oxide. Otherwise, they're not going to get any type of NOx. But this nitrous oxide is also a greenhouse gas. So if forest fire happens, then the natural component of the atmosphere, and the major two components, oxygen and nitrogen, will react with each other to form nitrous oxide, and that will be emitted, and that will add up to the concentration of the greenhouse gas of that particular region. So actually, it leads to a vicious cycle that global warming is leading to forest fire, and forest fire is leading to greenhouse gas increase, and greenhouse gas increase is leading to global warming. So we are stuck in a vicious cycle, and it is very tough to say whether global warming is the driver of the forest fire, or forest fire is having something to do with something to promote the global warming in return. So it is always it is the fact that we should not allow the forest fire to happen, because it not only leads to global warming but also leads to a loss of a lot of soil flora and fauna, and forest fauna and flora and fauna which cannot escape that particular fire. And if there are endemic species, then if some fire happens like that of the Australia, then there are chances we are going to lose several species. So it is always better to hold the forest fire as soon as possible, irrespective of the fact whether it is being done by the global warming or it is leading the global warming. Rather, we should restrict ourselves from urbanization in the forested areas or urbanization near forest, which may flicker the particular spark which can lead to a forest fire. So I think it was thank you, and this was all I would like to share with you. Now, if there is any query, I can answer.
Thank you so much, very much, sir. And I told you viewers that Dr. Mishra is going to really go in depth considering his achievements being in this field for 20 years. I told you we're going to get a very quality and in-depth information on today's topic. I think I told you so. I am right. Thank you very much, sir. And sincerely, you've given a very quality information based on the content of your PPT. It's quite understood and it's very clear. Thank you once again so much, sir. And we are happy to have you in our conference today and in the room today. It's a very good pleasure. Please, sir, and Shomik, could you turn on your video? Let me also use this opportunity to give a general thanks to you both doctors for having you with us for today. I really, really appreciate your time which you have given, and I say we are really happy to have learned from you, to know your take on this topic. And I believe a lot of viewers out there that will be watching thereafter, they will be able to make use of the information which you both have shared with us. Once again, thank you. From Work More Talks, I say thank you. And for me, myself, I also say thank you. So viewers around the world, wherever you are, I don't want you to forget, tomorrow is the last day of this conference. So please stay tuned. We will see you tomorrow and have a wonderful night time as you go to your project. Thank you very much. I'll see you tomorrow. We shall finish and finalize tomorrow. Thank you so much.